And I woke up this morning and I thought, what would just really make my day? Just some absolute emotional devastation.
Welcome back to the Middle of Culture. I am one of your hosts, Eden.
And I am your other host, Peter.
Dear listeners, a weird thing has happened. And that is that the last episode of this podcast has been obliterated from time, space, and memory, apparently.
I think what it was is that it was too grand of an episode, that it would have destroyed the neo-fascist far right. It would have brought world peace.
Damn.
And they just couldn't let that happen.
Damn,
the
what a bummer.
The system had to take us down.
They should have let it happen. But what that means is that I was going to start this episode with what I thought was going to be a recurring gimmick, but instead y'all will be hearing it for the first time in a few episodes. I'm opening a beer as we start this episode, dear listeners. A mango ride wheat ale with natural flavors. Who doesn't love the sound of a can opening? Anyway, what you been up to, Peter?
Hanging in there. It's one of these things where I feel like I've been going through some shit, but I don't have a good explanation as to what or why.
Could it in fact be recovery after a month and a half of being extremely busy in your personal, social, familial life?
It could be. And I thought about that. I did have that thought. And then, on top of that, not this past Friday, but the Friday before that, I got my flu shot. And so I've been blaming some of it on that and just, I don't know. But I am dragging ass big time. But how about you? How have you been?
Samesies. It's been so warm. Finally, the weather has broken. It's not as warm as it was last time we talked, but it just feels weird. The year is weird. We're all just going through it. We live in a hellscape, the worst possible timeline, as we often joke in our household. Gallows humor, if you must. But here we are.
I wish it was a joke. I wish it was a joke.
It sure feels like it's true.
Fucking reality.
It sure feels like it's true. Anyway, thankfully, dear listeners, since that last episode disappeared, you don't get to hear my inflammatory Charlie Kirk jokes. So we're just going to move on from there. What you been up to, Peter? What you been checking out?
Oh my gosh. Well, okay. First things first, we have to talk about this announcement.
Which one? There's been so many announcements. NYCC was this weekend. Who knows what you're talking about?
Well, we're going to kick off with music. So we're talking about
it's not NYCC
Rush.
then.
We're talking about Rush.
There's Rush in what?
What? Oh, I'm so excited that I get to be the one that tells you this. Rush has announced the 50-something tour with Neil Peart's widow and daughter's blessing. They have recruited, I think her name is Annika Niles. She is a German drummer. They're doing a bunch of tours, a bunch of shows where basically the announcement was, I think, Getty talking about how much he misses playing music with his best friend. And that it's just been a huge hole in their lives. And they've decided to get back together and go and do some shows with this Annika Niles. And I will tell you what.
Well, then.
I went, like I think a lot of people, and looked at her YouTube channel. And I'll be honest, I went, yeah, I can see why they chose her. She's not the fastest drummer, but boy, she's got some grooves.
She doesn't need to be the fastest. Neil was never the fastest.
Neil never
he was just extremely proficient. And had a particular style. The thing about Neil is that, like, everyone talked about how he had the biggest kit and was super proficient and all those sorts of things, but he also had a very distinct, all three of them. You hear a Getty bass line, you know it's a Getty bass line. You hear an Alex
100%.
Guitar solo, you know it's an Alex guitar solo. You hear Neil Peart on the drums, you know that's Neil on the drums.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like there's a good Tama drums thing. Anyway, there's a couple things on YouTube, and she seems like she seems like she's got the juice.
Okay. Oh,
So,
she's Jeff Beck's drummer. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay, why not?
Yeah. So
when do tickets go on sale? Next week. The 17th.
Yep.
Okay, well, they're playing 4 shows in Chicago, so maybe I could get a ticket. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I wish I could easily make it happen. They're not really playing.
Wow, they're really not coming close to you all at all, huh?
Nope. And, Natalie, our sister, reached out and asked me if I was going to be going. And I feel bad saying it. I don't think I am, because I'd have to travel a fair ways. It would be a fair bit of travel for me to go. And I've been fortunate in that I've seen Rush many times.
Sure.
And while I think it would be cool to see this incarnation of them, it's not going to be the same. And for me, where I've been able to see them with Neil as many times as I have, I at least right now kind of feel like I'm just going to let that be. That's going to be my memory of seeing Rush live.
That's really fair. I'm going to click through this and see if it gives me price ideas. No, I just have to join a queue. I don't know. We'll see. I will say I'm not here to sway you one way or the other. I think that's a perfectly valid take. It's honestly what I'll probably say, because I'll probably look at the prices and say, oh, plus having to drive to Chicago and spend overnight and all those sorts of things, I guess I also won't be going to see Rush. But I will say Madison's a 2-hour drive from Chicago. So if you wanted to go visit some family that lives in Madison, you could squeeze a trip to go see Rush into that. Not to sway you one way or the other, but it's only 2 hours from Madison to Chicago.
I guess, it is next year. So I've got a little bit of time before, but we'll see. They added like a whole boatload of new ones. Again, when they first announced, it was just 2 nights at some places. And then all of a sudden
now it's 4 nights at basically every one of those places.
Yeah, it's like we're doing 4 nights at every place, because I'm guessing the demand was pretty high, which means the prices will be astronomical, and again, I've reached this stage of my life where I don't love going to shows in those big places anymore. They're just not as much fun.
It's not the same as going to a club.
So I like the smaller places. I like the smaller venues. So we'll see. But anyway, I was like, oh, I can hardly wait to talk to Eden about this and see what their opinion is. And there you go. You hadn't had a chance to form one yet.
Well, here's the thing. I will on the 17th go look at prices and say no, and then probably not buy tickets to go see Rush. But I think
I'll do the same.
I'm happy they'll get to hang out. I will say, if you want to play music with your friend Getty, y'all can just go to each other's houses.
Right?
But hey, I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to judge.
It's true.
Anyway, what else have you been checking out?
So that was the first big music thing, and now I'm maybe going to sneeze, and I'm back from the sneeze. Anyway, a couple other releases. Last Friday, so a week ago Friday, the new Raphael Weinroth Brown album Lifeblood came out. I think I mentioned it previously. I love Raphael Weinroth Brown. He's a cellist from Canada. Sure. Mm-hmm. He has been the cellist for the progressive, originally were progressive metal, now really more progressive rock band Leprous. I like some older Leprous stuff. I don't like their new stuff too much. It's a little too mellow for me, but hey, that's just me. But I love Raphael Weinroth Brown's stuff. His solo stuff is great. His previous full-length album, Worlds Within, was really cool. And then he released Worlds Within Live, and I just fell in love because it's the same album, but it's actually all recorded in one take, him with a whole half circle of loop and effects pedals in front of him. So he'll start playing something, record it, start looping it, then just build on top of it and turn these things on and off. Very, very cool. Anyway, Lifeblood feels like a little bit more realized album. And it is, oh my gosh, it's so good. It's so good. It is so beautiful. It is emotive. It is just incredible cello music. And I have been listening to it nonstop the past week until this last Friday when a couple other albums came out.
I was going to say, what else came out?
Well, so this Friday I was very excited for the new Testament album, Parabellum. I love Testament. They're my favorite thrash band.
Sure.
I think that they basically kick the ass of all of the big four of thrash,
By a country
Metallica,
mile.
Megadeth, Anthrax, and even Slayer. While Slayer was incredible, their first few albums, they really fell off hard, in my opinion. And Testament never had the huge dip in quality that all of those other bands had, and they've been way more consistent. And having seen them live a few times and comparing that to when I saw Megadeth live was just like a snooze fest. And most of and that was Dave Mustaine with like a younger band. Testament, they're all in their 50s or older. And they put on such a good show. But here's a funny thing. I've only listened to all of Parabellum once. I listened to it when I was lifting weights yesterday because it's good weight music. But the album Heretics and Lullabies by the Cleveland doom band Fayle has blown my fucking mind since it came out on Friday. Fayle is perfect October music.
Okay.
It's really kind of a duo. The lead vocalist, Gwen Strang, she sings just the creepiest, like, really soft, whispered, really, really high kind of lilting vocals. And then you've got just this like crunchy, heavy, atmospheric, doomy guitar. And I love their previous albums. They put out a number of singles, and then their first album, 1692, of course, the year of the Salem witch trials, came out. And then their next album, which now I'm blanking on the title of it, but their second album was great. Heretics and Lullabies is their best album. It is so cool. Just this heavy, atmospheric, moody doom with, again, the juxtaposition of her vocals with the music. It's intoxicating. I have not been able to stop listening to it again, except while I was lifting, because I'm like, no, some thrash metal is a little bit better lifting music than this atmospheric doom. But then as soon as I finished lifting, I literally stopped listening to the middle of that song, whatever song I was on, and went back to Fayle as I was walking up the stairs, because I'm like, okay, it's time to get back to this.
Okay.
You want a real creepy video? You should go watch their video for the single Boo. Very creepy, very cool song. Very cool song. So Fayle, top notch, just knocked it out of the park with this one. And I'll get to Testament. The one time I listened to Parabellum, I will say it's an interesting album in that it feels like their most experimental album to date, in that there's a lot of different styles. Like the very first song feels almost like blackened thrash. The second song is more straight up thrash. Then the next one is a little bit more groovy, and then it goes into a ballad, and there's death metal, there's black metal, there's all sorts of stuff on the Testament album. I kind of was picking up as I was listening to it that one time.
Sure.
But, I'm not ready to stop listening to Heretics and Lullabies yet, so.
That's fair.
It's good. Couple other things really briefly. In terms of games, you know what I'm going to be doing soon, Eden?
What's that?
I'm going to be telling Microsoft to suck it, and I'm canceling my Game Pass Ultimate.
Hey, those of us who were with the BDS movement already did it, but hey, those doubling of prices are also going to do it. Oh my God.
Good Lord. I mean, seriously, again, at $15 a month, it was a great deal. At $20 a month, it was still probably a good deal. But at $30 a month, I'm like, you know what? I don't think there's any way they're putting out enough stuff that I would spend way more than $360 if I were to buy the games I actually did want to play.
Truly. That is, yeah. Again, like, it is fuck Microsoft o'clock over here all the time, but the $30 a month is just egregious.
Yeah.
But everything's
really
going up
bad
in price. Like, I am not surprised at seeing so many more people exploring the piracy space, if you will. Because it's the
sailing the high seas.
It's the 1-2 punch of every single streaming service has doubled in price over the last 5 years, if not more than that. And because of the fractious nature of the various and sundry streaming services, you can't even watch you can't get one or two to watch everything that you want to watch. You would have to subscribe to 5 or 6 of them. And at that point, at $20 to $25 a month each, you're looking at $150 just in streaming every single month, which is absurd. It is absolutely patently absurd and flies in the face of what, in theory, streaming was supposed to do when we all moved to it 15 years ago about, cutting the cord and making it more economical and more feasible and more user-friendly, more consumer-friendly. It's none of those things anymore. So it doesn't surprise me to see piracy jump through the roof. And that's one side of it. And then the other side of it is, there was a post I saw on Blue Sky. I'm going to pull it up because I think it is very funny and very relevant. And someone said, piracy is not a victimless crime warning on Blu-rays hit a little different in the era of generative AI. And then somebody else made one of those fake, you remember the you wouldn't download a car promos, which must be said stole the music for those you wouldn't steal ads, which okay. But someone made a fake one of those and said, you wouldn't scrape all the art ever made and use it to create an anime titty generator. So this 1-2 punch of it costs too much to get the streaming services that I need. And also all these companies are just stealing everything anyway and being told that it's fine by the courts. Yeah. Who am I really hurting by getting a Plex server and downloading some MKVs from Nya?
Yep. So, be canceling that. I did just send you something. I just thought, just to get a feel for the Fayle, Heretics and Lullabies, I sent you the cover of the album.
Oh, that's a good cover.
Oh yeah, I think it gives you a good sense of what you're getting on the inside.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, final thing I wanted to mention is November is fast approaching, and while NaNoWriMo, the organization, fell apart, and there are a bunch of different things that are kind of trying to keep it alive, I'm getting ready, but I'm not getting ready for November. I will not be writing a book in the month of November.
Okay.
So I was reading an article a while ago, and the crux of the article was from this guy who wrote it. I think it was Dave Perel was his name. He said something about we should learn the way athletes train. And he talks about how, in all these other things, people really practice their craft, but he was talking about how knowledge workers don't tend to do that quite as much. Anyway, that part just kind of I didn't care about. But what I did care about is he talks about learning in 3-month sprints. And that's his suggestion, is that you pick a subject and you come up with sort of a set learning plan for 3 months and then find something else to learn. And I read that early in September and it kind of resonated with me. And so I decided that what I'm actually going to do in the months of October, November, and December is I'm going to learn how to actually write a book. I'm going to learn more about the craft of writing a novel. I'm going to.
Okay.
So I planned it all out. I've got 6 books that I'm going to read throughout the course of those 3 months. And then I've signed up for Jessica Brody's Writing Mastery Academy. There's a few things on Masterclass and some other things where I'm going to kind of learn these things and read these things, take these courses, and any of the exercises that they suggest that go along with that, I'm actually going, those exercises are going to be in preparation for my next book.
Okay.
And my plan is to then, on January 1st, start writing book number 4. With hopefully a full outline under my belt and a better idea of the scene structure and really where do I want to take things? How do I craft a good story? So I finished, the first book I finished in this endeavor was Save the Cat Writes a Novel by Jessica Brody. So Save the Cat was a very big book that was about screenwriting. This guy wrote it and basically said, hey, every screenplay, here are the beats that you need to have to make it successful, to make people, it resonate with people. And Jessica Brody, she's an author. She's got 20 plus books that she's published, but then she also has this Writing Mastery Academy and she does a lot of workshops, basically trying to teach people how to write books. And so I read Save the Cat Writes a Novel, and she lays out these 15 beats where it's like, and I'm going to say this, it was a great book. I finished it. I gave it 5 stars. I don't give 5 stars very easily.
Sure.
It's engaging. It's well written. It's entertaining. But then what she does is she comes in and the first thing, she introduces the 15 beats. And then the next chapter takes you through really, really in-depth, what are those 15 beats?
Okay.
And kind of, goes, this is what you need and here's what you're looking for. And, it's all these things. It's the setup and it's this and it's the break into act 2 and everything. Here's what needs to happen in act 2 and act 3 and all of this kind of stuff. And then she has a chapter where she talks about different book genres, not genres as in romance, sci-fi, fantasy, historical fiction, literary fiction, nothing like that.
Sure.
It's genres such as, she calls it the institutionalized novel, where the main protagonist is part of something that they need to get out of. Or there's the superhero novel where, again, a person put in extreme circumstances and it's able to rise to the challenge. Or, the monster in the room, she calls it, or the monster in the house, and or the buddy love, or the golden fleece, the travel to get the golden fleece, that kind of stuff. And so she has she outlines all of those, and then the rest of the book, she takes one genre and takes a bunch of popular novels and says, these novels all fall into this category, and here's some of these 15 beats from each novel. And then at the end of that chapter, she takes one book and literally goes page number by page number. She's like, okay, beat number 1 is pages 1 to 2. Beat number 2 is pages 3 to 8. Beat number 3 is pages this to this, and walks you through the entire book. Totally spoils the book if you haven't read it, because she just basically says, this is what happens in this book that corresponds to each one of these beats. And here is where in the book it is done. So you can kind of see the layout of the book. And honestly, the whole time I'm reading it, I'm just sitting there going, oh, I can see some places where my other books are really weak and I could make them much stronger. So it was great. Very, very good book. Well written. And I feel already with just that one, I'm like, oh, I'm going to be so much more prepared going into this, to writing this next book than I was previously.
Sure. That makes sense.
So
cool.
That's kind of where I'm at. That's what I've been reading. Almost done. I'm about 2/3 of the way done with the second book in that. And then I'll be done with my books for the month of October. And then I'm going to dive into, again, there's a Save the Cat online course that she has in her Writing Mastery Academy. So I'm going to do that course because there I know it's going to be, okay, here's your exercises. And that's where I'm going to take those and actually start doing them for my next book idea.
Sure. Do you have an idea of what you want to do with that next book? Do you have like nebulous ideas? And so, but you like this idea enough that you want to really make it stick. And so that is why you're doing this? Or is this a larger idea of, I've always wanted to do these sorts of things. I do have this idea I want to approach come January. Let me get some skills before I do so.
So, I mean, I came up with the idea for the next book a few months ago. And as I was getting closer to November, I thought, you know what? I really like this idea and I would like to make this something that I would let other people read.
Sure.
So that was where I went into.
Anyone else read any of your other stuff yet? Correct.
Correct. Because I haven't revised them. And it was really interesting in reading this book. I can see all the different places where those books really fall short of the mark and why I got to the end of them. And I'm like, because I was missing either this beat or I didn't really have this beat done well. And so, yeah, I like the idea of this book enough that I really would like to make it something that I'd let people read.
Okay, cool.
And so this is all in service of hopefully, if nothing else, knowing how to structure a novel so that the story is engaging and interesting. Whether or not I can write it well, I guess a different question, but at least knowing, okay, I've got the skeleton of a respectable story. So
nice. That's cool. Well, yeah. I hope it's worthwhile. Every October it rolls around and I think, will this be the year I do NaNoWriMo and finish it? Because I did do it that one year we did it together and I didn't finish it. You've done it since and I haven't. And again, that thought crossed my mind this week. Am I going to do it this year? I don't know. Probably not, but maybe. We'll see. It's 2.5 weeks away. I got plenty of time to decide if I'm going to do it or not.
Oh, yeah. Plenty of time, Bob. But what about you? What you been checking out?
Well, I will also start in the same place you started with music, because the new Tron movie came out this week, and apparently no one is going to see it.
I know I'm not.
Yeah. Here's the thing: if someone were to come to me and say, "Hey, I'm going to see Tron Ares. Do you want to come with me?" I would say, "Hell yes, I want to go see Tron Ares with you. I bet it sucks," and I would go watch that movie with that person. But short of being asked by someone else who wants to make the thing happen and take the initiative, I'm not going to go see Tron Ares because I know it's going to suck because they've never made a good Tron movie. Do I think fondly of Tron movies? Dear listener, yes, I do. Have they made a good Tron movie? No, they have not. They're both bad.
You are 100% correct.
Do I love the aesthetic? Yes. Do I love the idea? Absolutely. Are the special effects cool?
And does the Daft Punk soundtrack from Tron Legacy just kick 34 billion different kinds of ass?
Yeah.
Yes.
It does. Is it Daft Punk's worst album? Yes. Is it still better than 95% of the soundtracks you could be listening to instead? Also, yes. And that is also true of the Tron Ares soundtrack, which is a Nine Inch Nails album. A weak Nine Inch Nails album, to be fair.
Okay.
In comparison to other Nine Inch Nails albums, it's fairly weak. It's fairly sedate. Doesn't have a lot of the impulse. Especially, this is an age thing. Trent Reznor is an old man. He's not doing it like he did it on Downward Spiral. He just isn't. He doesn't have the hate in his heart that it took to make Pretty Hate Machine. Which, fair. That happens to many artists, especially as they age, they get older, they get wealthier. Many times they find happiness. The music is not as good. This is what happened with the Mountain Goats. The Mountain Goats were good until John Darnielle had a good family life, and now they suck. But regardless, new Nine Inch Nails album, a.k.a. the Tron Ares soundtrack, bad Nine Inch Nails album, but pretty good to listen to. I've had a very fun time listening to it. It's good. It's fairly solid Nine Inch Nails. It has
I will
more
have to check it
vocals
out
than I expected. For being a soundtrack album, it has more vocals than I expected, and I don't know how much those feature in the film. Maybe they're in it very little. Maybe they're in it a lot. I'm probably not going to find out until someday 6 months from now I'm a sucker and I download a MKV of it and put it on. But we'll see. I've been having fun with it. Other things to mention, I have been reading a fair amount. I'm all caught up with the Apothecary Diaries. I'm all done. All 15 books. I would like there to be more. I would like the books to come out faster. But I also understand I don't want to rush it. I want the author to take her time, do what she wants to do in the space. Volume 16 is due out in February or March. So I don't have too long to wait till the next one, but I am a little sad to be all caught up. But having finished that and wanting more books that kind of were in that same vein, kind of felt that sort of way, I stumbled onto a series called, I need to pull up the subtitle because it's got a ridiculously long subtitle. Let me just Google this for a second. It is titled, Though I Am an Inept Villainess, Tale of the Butterfly Rat Body Swap in the Maiden Court. Which is a lot of title. The rest of it doesn't matter. The only part that matters is the first part, Though I Am an Inept Villainess, which is a great title. And then the subtitle sucks. But basically, this is a series that is also set in a fictional Chinese court sort of situation where it is largely dealing with the consorts and maidens who are set aside to be... Just a sec. The dogs just got home. All right. So it is set in a very similar kind of fake medieval sort of Chinese world, and focuses on the consorts and their servants in the court of the emperor. But this one has a little more supernatural elements than Apothecary Diaries does, because it starts with the least favored of the 5 maidens who are all destined to be the high consorts of the incoming king, the now crown prince who will become emperor someday. The least popular and the worst of them uses her magic to do a body swap with the most popular and the chosen maiden, who everyone knows will become the next empress because she is the crown prince's favorite. And it goes pretty bad for both. Well, it goes pretty bad for her when she body swaps into the most favored maiden, because she is very sickly and has a plucky go-getting attitude and an indomitable will that forces her that she does things even though her body is basically falling apart, because she has a very, very weak body. She's constantly sick and all these sorts of things, and she pushes herself through it because that's the kind of will she has. Needless to say, when the unpopular girl gets into the sick body, she is not having a very good time of it. She is just like, this is how this girl lives all the time, feeling like this. And meanwhile, the most popular girl, now in the body of the least popular one, is for the first time in her life in a healthy, strong, robust body that can do things that she's wanted to do her entire life. So she's having the time of her life, even though she has been exiled to a shed in the garden, because in theory she is Kaigetsu, the evil villainess, tried to kill Reirin, the popular girl, by shoving her off a balcony, and that's when the body swap happens. So she has been exiled to a shed in the garden, and she's having a great time. She's out there gardening. She's, making food that she could eat because she doesn't have such a weak constitution when it comes to eating. She's like, fried potatoes are a thing I've wanted to eat my entire life. Do you know what's great? Fried potatoes. And all I could think was, you know what, Reirin, you're right. Fried potatoes are great. It's really dumb. It's a fairly dumb premise, but I have been pretty compelled by it. I'm about 3 books deep in the series right now and having a fairly good time with it. It's fun. Cool. It's fun. The only other thing I will mention in terms of reading. So last weekend, a bunch of friends all got together and we decided to do a very, very early Friendsgiving. So we rented a house outside of town, and we all would go out there and just basically hang out all day when we didn't have other obligations, and watch movies and hang out and eat a lot of food. And we did a big Thanksgiving dinner on that Sunday night. But as we were out there, we were talking about, these are a lot of the folks who I have my book club with. So we were talking about books, and we were talking specifically about choose your own adventure novels. And I posited, surely they make those for adults. Surely there are versions that are specifically geared towards adults. So we all did some Googling, and we found a list of like the top 10 best choose your own adventure style books for adults. And so we were looking through it, and there was one in particular called My Lady's Choosing, which sounded kind of fun, kind of flirty. And so I was tasked by my friends to read it before our next book club. So I have also spent the last week or so reading a fair amount of Roots in the My Lady's Choosing Choose Your Own Adventure book, which is, it's a Regency era story about a young woman who works as a retainer for this rich, terrible old lady, goes to a party, and various and sundry wild happenstance adventures open up to her with various and sundry possible love interests. There's the brooding nephew of the woman she works for, who is very much like a Heathcliff from Wuthering Heights type person. There is the broguish Scot, Angus, who wants to go on adventures and takes care of orphans and widows because he's a former soldier. And there's Lady Evangeline, who was in a lavender marriage with her much older husband, who has now since died, and she wants to get back to going on crazy archaeological adventures like Indiana Jones. And so you, as the reader, make lots of choices of where you want to go, who you want to spend time with. Many sexy choices can be made during the course of reading this book. But I've been having a good time with it. I've seen a couple of the routes with Evangeline, a couple of the routes with Angus. I don't really care about the brooding guy. I'll probably go back and at least read one of them, but this is the least interesting to me. But I had a good time with them. It was fun. It was flirty. It was over the top. It definitely felt like reading those Choose Your Own Adventure books when you're a kid, where not only are you jumping pages, it definitely feels very disjointed in terms of its narrative, where there will be times where it will say, you know, turn to page 84 if you want to do this. And you turn to page 84 and it feels like you have jumped from point A to point E and they just left B, C, and D out. And you just need to follow along with it, even though you went to the exact page it told you to go to. It's just very disjointed in that very same way.
Sure.
But I kind of had a fun time with it. It was a fun time. If you wanted a fun romance set in a Regency era with sexy men or a sexy lady, you can have it. And it was fairly fun. I had a good time with it.
There you go.
And then the last thing I will mention, because, you know, this part has been going a little long. We watched some very bad movies because these are the folks who do the Bad Movie Bros. We watched a very bad 1991 Dragon Ball movie. We watched Morbius, which was terrible. It is no Madam Web. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it is no Madam Web. But the last thing I will mention is it was the big Steam sale, and I did not partake much, but I did buy one game, and that game is called Doll's Nest, which is what if Armored Core, Dark Souls, and Frame Arms girls had a baby? Because you are a weird girl who straps a lot of ordnance onto your legs and arms because they're robotic legs and arms, and you go and do some really lonely Dark Souls adventuring and kill a whole lot of mechs. And I'm having a very fun time with it. I got through the whole first area. I beat the first boss in the first try, which always... Whenever you're playing like a Souls-like and you beat that first boss the first try, you feel like you are a god. You feel untouchable, unimpeachable. You're incredible. And then I go to the hub area, 3 new places unlocked that you can go to. I went to each of them and I got my ass whooped in every single one of those with the first big group of enemies. I thought, okay, I see how it is. The first area was the tutorial area. Now you're going to actually make me play this fucking game. But I've been having a good time with it. I haven't played it for a couple of days now, but I would like to go back to it. I think it's very cool.
So what was it called again?
Doll's Nest. You can tell that it is made by a small team, a passionate team who's made a very cool game with a small budget and few resources, but I am having a really good time with it, and I think it's a really cool game.
Very good.
There's like a bunch of other games in that same sort of milieu, but this is the one I landed on because it seemed like a passion project by a small group of people, and it was on sale. So I said, yes, give it to me. And I've been having a good time with it.
Cool.
All right. Well, I think it's time for us to move to our main event for today. And for this week, dear listeners, we decided I made Peter watch a thing. And what I made him watch was the 2024 film Look Back, which is an anime film based on a manga by Tatsuki Fujimoto, who of Fire Punch or Chainsaw Man fame. And this is a one-shot that he did that was all published in one big chunk in a magazine and then published in a single volume. And then and it was like, I want to say 2019, 2020, something like that, maybe 21. And then they made this film last year about it. Peter, how did you find this film? Before we get into the details of it, what did you think about this movie I made you watch? First off, it's very short, 58 minutes.
It is.
That's hard to beat.
I mean, yeah. So here's the thing. We talked about this at the start. I've been going through some stuff lately.
Yeah.
Things have been, not bad, but just everything feels a little heavier and the weather's changing. It's been cloudy and rainy. It's starting to feel like fall, a little gloomy. I kind of like it, but I can see where people don't. And I woke up this morning and I thought, what would just really make my day? Just some absolute emotional devastation. So that's what you gave me. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
This one hits like a ton of bricks, huh?
The good news is I knew it was coming. The second the first soundtrack piece came in and it's this beautiful cello and it is like emotive, I was like, oh no, this is going to fuck me. This is like, the music was beautiful, and I instantly knew. And then when they were running, they're having their day out because they got that prize, and they're running through the streets holding hands. And I turned to my sons and I said, "She gonna die. She gonna die."
Yeah, it's.
Oh my gosh! Why did you do this to me?
Because it's good. It's a bummer. It's a real bummer. It is a tearjerker. It is a heart wrencher. And again, you do know that from the jump, because the way that it is framed, the way that it is scored, you can tell this one's going to be a bummer. But it hits. It hits really, really hard. I read the manga back in like April. I was going back through our past episodes. This is how I realized our last episode had disappeared. I was going back to see if I had talked about it all, because I read it. Here it is on my little Zoom screen.
Look at that.
I read it back in April, and it was a bummer back then too. But I guess I never talked about it on the podcast. But everyone I talked to about it, when I said, I read this, it was a lot. Everyone I talked to said, dude, you got to watch the movie, because the manga ain't got nothing on that movie. And boy, were they right. Well, it hits harder when there is pacing and when it is no longer self-paced. Comics, as we've talked about, have pacing, but it is pacing that is dictated by you as the reader. It hits different when there is a very talented director who is making particular directorial choices about how long do we linger on these images, how long do we linger on these shots, what sort of sounds are we going to incorporate into this thing. And this one has it in spades. It really, really hits like a ton of bricks. So I'm sorry to bring emotional devastation to you and your family.
No. It was, well, so when I announced to Alex, I said, oh, she's going to die. He actually said, "You're probably right." And he got up and he left the room.
Well, his loss.
He did not subject himself to it.
Well, he's missing out. Yeah. Well, I'm going to go through a really quick recap. There's not a whole lot to recap here because it is short.
Sure.
And there's not a whole lot that happens in it, but I'm going to recap it really shortly, and then we'll get into the details, the weeds about what happens in this story. So this is about Fujino, who is it starts with her in elementary school. She loves to draw. She draws manga in the school newspaper that they make every week, and she does little 4-panel cartoons, and everyone thinks that she's really good at it. They're like, "Wow, you're really talented." She's 10 and she's doing these manga, and they're funny. And they've got good pacing and all this sort of stuff. The teacher says, "Hey, there's this girl who is assigned to our school. She doesn't come to school, but she wants to try drawing manga. Can we give her one of the 2, manga that you draw? Can she also do a 4-panel manga?" And Fujino says, "Yeah, that's fine." And so Kiyomoto starts doing one of these next to hers. And they're so different because Fujino's is it's a gag manga. The first one that we see is about these 2 lovers who are in a car together, and then they get in a car wreck, and then they kiss as they're dying, and they say, "We must find ourselves in our reincarnation." And then the woman gets reincarnated, and she's like, where is my love? And he is an asteroid who comes to kiss her by exploding the planet Earth
into Japan.
Very, very, so gags. It's just like goofy stuff. It's like, I talked about a few episodes ago, maybe it was in the last episode, Azumanga Daioh is that sort of comic. It is just 4-panel vertical gags. And so nearly everyone has hits like that. They're funny. You go, haha, and then you read the next one. Kiyomoto, this other student on the other side, is just drawing like beautiful scenery and giving it a title to give it some sort of narrative oomph behind it, but it's just a series of backgrounds, essentially, like beautiful drawings of buildings or fields or mountains or fireworks going off and all this sort of stuff. And everyone suddenly is like, "Whoa, Kiyomoto's pretty good. It's better than you, Fujino." So this makes Fujino suddenly feel like she has a rival. And so she becomes a crazy, crazy person for art. She's drawing all the time. She's practicing. She's buying a lot of books that teach her how to draw anatomy or how to draw this or the other. And she's constantly evolving her craft over the course of the next 2 years. Then as they get to near the end of 6th grade, she decides to stop drawing because a panel comes out. And she's so proud of hers. She looks at Kiyomoto's and she's like, I don't have it like this. I'm done. I quit. And so she stops drawing. And then at the end of 6th grade, her teacher says, hey, I want you to go take the diploma that says she graduated to Kiyomoto, even though she hasn't come to school. I don't know how you graduate if you don't go to school, but I'm not going to worry about it. She's told to go take the diploma. She does so. She walks into the house. Nobody's there, but she can tell where Kiyomoto's door is because it's surrounded by the same sorts of notebooks that she buys to do her art in. And there is a blank template, basically, of a 4-strip comic there. And so she makes this joke one of these two warring factions of don't come out and come out. And then, Kiyomoto winning the don't never come out of your room competition because she's a corpse. So again, just a goofy gag. And then she draws it and it falls out of her hand and slides right under the door. Mortified, she runs out. But Kiyomoto follows her because it turns out while she has been looking up to what Kiyomoto's been doing, Kiyomoto's been looking at Fujino and everything she's been doing as well and been super inspired by the work that she's been doing. And so this embarks on a friendship between the two of them where they work together to start creating manga, with Kiyomoto doing the backgrounds and Fujino doing the figural work and the action. And eventually, like you said, they win a contest. They're 13. They submit their first manuscript. It's like a 45-page manga. They win a contest. They get a bunch of money. They start hanging out with each other. They become really good friends. They continue to work on things and publish a number of other things until they reach the end of high school. And their editor says, great, we are ready to give you guys a serialized book. We want to give you the space to make a long-form manga. You're talented. We think that you're great. At this moment, Kiyomoto says that she doesn't want to do it anymore because she wants to become a landscape painter. She wants to go into fine art instead of comics, which kind of breaks Fujimo's heart. And you can tell that this is kind of the rupture between the two of them as Kiyomoto decides, I'm going to go to art school. Fujino decides to move on and work on the comic that she wanted to work on. And it works, and it goes, fine for them. Kiyomoto is doing a lot of art. She's learning a lot. She's reaching out to her peers. She's developing her skills. Fujino becomes a famous mangaka. Like, she has a very successful book called Shark Attack that you watch becoming more and going up and up in the charts. And eventually an anime is announced for her book. So she's on the top of the world in terms of her ability in the manga world. And at that moment, Kiyomoto dies, because she's attacked by a dude who goes to the art school and says that he's been plagiarized. It's clearly like a guy who's dealing with mental illness. He thinks he's been plagiarized by the art students. So he goes to just kill people at the school, and he kills Kiyomoto, which tears Fujino apart because she knew that this drift had come between the two of them and she missed her best friend. And so she goes to the funeral. She's torn up. She goes to Kiyomoto's house. It's that same doorway down a long hallway with the notebooks on either side of it. And she just, is torn up about it. She sees a copy of the weekly magazine where Shark Attack is published. She's flipping through it, and she sees that original 4-panel manga that she drew of them saying, don't come out and come out. She rips it into shreds, and the top panel that says don't come out goes under the door, just like the original one has. And this is where it gets a little weird, because it seems as though maybe that panel gets transported back in time to the day, just moments before Fujino walked in that door the first time when they were 12. And so it says don't come out. So she does not come out when Fujino is in the house. She does not let Fujino know that she's in the house. So she never walks down the hall, never does the 4-panel manga. They don't connect at that point. So she goes on, becomes a famous artist, or she wants to work on her art. She goes to that same art school. And Fujino, who, we saw had quit and then was rekindled her love for manga when she ran into Kiyomoto, didn't do manga anymore. She became a karate artist. She had a successful social life, all this other stuff. And so as Kiyomoto is taking a break in her art school, the guy comes in to do his murderous rampage, and Fujino happens to be running past and see him carrying an axe into the school. So she goes, stops him from killing Kiyomoto. And that is how they kind of reconnect. And Kiyomoto is like, are you the Fujino sensei that I had that was the person I looked up to when I was 12? And Fujino's like, I haven't done any drawing in a while, but I'm thinking I might get back to it. And so then she goes home and draws a 4-panel manga of her being saved by Fujino from the attack, which then blows out of her hand and goes back under the door and goes back to the original timeline where she's dead. And suddenly that is next to Fujino as she's crying on the floor. And she picks it up and she looks at it. And she basically asks herself, she says, I hate drawing. I can't go back to this. Mm-hmm. And she hears Kiyomoto's voice and says, well, then why do you draw? And she remembers every time they spent together and all of the things that they did together and how much it meant to her. And so then the film ends with Fujino going back to her studio, taping it up on the window in front of her, and just starting drawing again. And then she just draws and draws and draws, and the credits start, and she's just drawing, and she's just drawing. And then eventually she walks out and turns off the lights, and that's where it ends.
There's a beautiful thing where that's happening, where this is when you actually want to sit through the credits, because she's just there drawing, and the city that's outside the window, you just see it going through the day, and it's changing from, early morning to midday to afternoon to dusk to night. It's really beautiful.
Yeah, it's really something. And that's where it ends. It ends with her going back and working on her book again and having found a reason to draw again in the memory of her friend, who she wishes there was some way she could have saved, but she didn't. And maybe that's all invented. Maybe it did existed. Maybe it didn't. Maybe it's a split timelines. It's very ambiguous, and on purpose, it's very ambiguous. But it ends with her going back and drawing her book and just sitting in it, and us as viewers also just sitting in it as the music plays and as she draws. So what are other things you want to mention about this? As a person who's thinking a lot about creative work and how you do creative work and why you do creative work, is there anything that really spoke to you about this, or things that you felt while you were watching this you want to talk about?
I think it's a beautiful little story it is so interesting because it's so spare in some ways, yet is a fairly well-developed coming-of-age story.
Yeah.
For Fujino. Mm-hmm. And a little bit for Kiyomoto, but more for Fujino. And it impressed me at how much we understand about the characters, even when they don't. It does a very good job of the whole old adage, show, don't tell.
Yeah.
Because we already understand at the point about midway where Kiyomoto says, oh, I had to stop going to school because I can't be around people, and thank you for getting me out of my room.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful moment, the way she expresses that. But it also was one of these things where we already kind of understood that that's what it was. We understood what was going on because they'd done such an elegant job of getting us to that point to just sort of inherently know, yeah, she has a hard time being around people. The first time she comes out to talk to Fujino, you almost wonder does she have a speech impediment or something? Because it's so difficult for her to get the first few words out. And then it becomes a little more fluid as she's talking to her and asking her to, get her autograph and all this kind of stuff. But I thought it was just, it's a beautiful example of building these things. And we have so many scenes that are just the two of them now that they've met each other working on their manga together.
Yeah.
And it's just, just different scenes, and they've got different clothes and the room looks a little different, but it's just them together working on it. And then when you get that kind of flashback / alternate history, whatever, towards the end, where you get again more of these scenes and just these, you feel it was gut wrenching. It just really was, because they do such a good job of, in a short amount of time, establishing the relationship between these two. And it starts off very much as you feel like Kyomoto needs Fujino because, and the more it goes on, and by the time it gets to the point where Kyomoto's like, I want to go to art school, you realize Fujino needs Kyomoto more than Kyomoto needs Fujino.
Yeah.
And there's been this role reversal that happened throughout the course of their relationship.
And that's even further implied that when she does become a successful mangaka, she burns through assistants. She can't seem to keep a collaborator that she works with in the same way that she worked with Kyomoto. Like she just burns through them and says, they're good, they're talented, but they don't got it. They don't have what I need, so I need a new assistant. And clearly has gone through many of them, and is having that conversation with her agent when she hears about the attack at Kyomoto's school.
Yeah. Now, this is something I do want to say, and maybe you can help me understand.
Hit me.
But is there a reason why in this sort of pastoral, coming of age story they have to choose to have Kyomoto die by the most just like fucking brutal thing in the world? I mean, come on. I'm like, there are so many other ways you could have done this, but to have a crazed person take a pickaxe and hack up, and we get the little thing that's like 12 dead, 3 injured. You're like, this psycho managed to get 15 people with his pickaxe. But I mean, that was, I was like, is there what is going on here? Come on.
I think that that's just Fujimoto being Fujimoto. Like you've never read anything by the guy, so you don't know him.
No.
He just goes a little over the top sometimes. This is like if you've never seen Chainsaw Man, you got to go look up what Chainsaw Man looks like. I mean,
I've heard of Chainsaw Man, so I did not realize that there was a connection there.
Yeah. Well, there's no reason for you to have, because this does not seem like the kind of guy that a dude who does or the kind of show or work that the guy who does Chainsaw Man would do. But sometimes he just likes to go for the weird, like, uber violent thing. And I think that's the genesis of that, even though it does feel like a little jarring here because it feels so over the top in comparison to how grounded the rest of everything is. I will say I've read a little bit of Fujimoto stuff before. I've read the first few volumes of Chainsaw Man. This made me want to go read more, watching it again and having read the one back in April. I think he's really talented, and I know like Chainsaw Man's kind of a mess, but I think he's really trying some interesting stuff there. I have friends who read Chainsaw Man, and they, will constantly update in a Discord that we're in about what's happening in Chainsaw Man this week. And so that one seems a little even more on the nose than some of the stuff that happens in this. When the War Devil has scars on her face in the shape of the Raytheon logo, you're like, okay, we're doing something here. And so, or like the way that the War Devil gets more powerful because of America's warmongering specifically, and she's like, "I love you, America. Thank you for killing so many people for me." This is not a guy who works in subtlety, as we saw through this film as well. Like, this is not a subtle film. This hits you like a ton of bricks, but it works because of it.
Yeah.
Are there any other things you wanted to mention about this?
I don't think so. Just again, it was beautiful. It was, I even though I knew something bad was coming, I still wasn't quite prepared. And I think that the something bad happens earlier in the story than I expected. So we have more time to sit with it, and we have that. And I think that was actually very, very effective. Sure. Where we get that whole alternate history, what could have been or whatever. I think that actually really made this hit harder than had it just been, oh, Fujino has to come to a reconciliation of this. It required almost that whole weird other part of the story to really get her there. And I thought that was pretty effective.
Yeah.
So I liked it. Will I watch it again? No, because I don't want to mess myself up like that. Yeah. But it was very good.
One of the things that really impressed me is the way that it looks. It has a really distinctive style that is borrowed entirely from Fujimoto's art. Like,
Okay.
Often when a very particular mangaka has a very particular style, often when it gets transformed into an anime, especially like a film or something like that, it loses some of its uniqueness and some of what really makes it feel like that artist. And that is not what happened here. Like you can see the design and the influence of Fujimoto's work on this whole thing. The way that faces work, the way that eyes work, the way that the kind of blush on the girl's cheeks works. It is as though they had taken panels from the manga and just said, do this exact thing, which again is not very common. When I was talking about City a few weeks ago, that was one of the big praises I had for City, is that I said, this looks like they just took Arawi's art and made it move. And that is exactly how this feels too. It looks like they took Fujimoto's art and made it move. But as I think everyone who I talked to about it was right, it hits harder as a movie because of the way that it can manipulate. I don't mean manipulate in a pejorative sense, but just in a declarative sense. It manipulates your emotions through the use of pacing, through the use of the soundtrack, which, as you said, is immediately clues you into what kind of thing you're going to have, because it's an immediate it's an immediate gut punch of a soundtrack. And I found it just really affecting. I found it even more affecting, which is rarely the case. I usually prefer the book or the comic over the movie. This is not one of those cases. The movie hits a lot harder than I expected it to, and was just really something else. I'm really happy I watched it. Like you said, I don't know that I'll watch it again. I'm probably not going to delete it from my Plex server, but I do think to myself, am I ever going to really watch this again? If space gets tight, maybe I'll delete it.
Yeah. Well, it was, I actually watched it on Amazon because it was on Amazon.
It's on Amazon.
It's on Amazon because I don't know if you noticed, it was in part produced by Amazon/MGM Studios. And since they bought MGM.
Oh, I did. I saw that at the beginning. I do remember seeing that new MGM logo. So there you go.
Yep. So it was just up on Amazon. So,
well, if you want a tearjerker, dear listeners, it would be hard. You'd be hard pressed to find a more punchy one in terms of time commitment to amount of feels you are going to have than to go watch that.
That is a very good way to put it, because like I say, it will sneak in and quickly just screw you right up.
Just eviscerate you, just disembowel you and make you feel a million emotions.
Oh yeah. No, very good. But again, little on the heavy side, but very well done. Very well done.
It did make me want to go read the next one shot that Fujimoto did right after this one, which is called Goodbye Eri, that came out in 2022. I haven't read that one yet, but it did make me think I need to spend more time with Fujimoto, and I think that's going to be a good place. That one shot might be a good place to go.
There you go.
But we will be back in a couple of weeks with a new episode. Until then, have a good time with your Octobers. Go get Your Heart Ripped Out on Amazon with a look back. If you have any feedback you'd like to share with us, you can always email us at feedback@themiddleofculture.com. You can leave reviews. You can leave a star rating if you feel so inclined. Those all help people find our podcast. And otherwise, we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Bye.